Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Alejandra Borbolla Diaz, and I am the bilingual digital communications manager here at P4AD. If you saw me on episode 2, welcome back. So, as you guys know, in June, we're hosting a couple of conversations with members of our senior staff, and they're going to be answering questions directly from patients, advocates, and supporters about prescription drug prices, our work, and where the fight goes from here. We've gotten a lot of questions, as you've seen from other episodes, and we're here to continue that trend. So today, I'm really excited about our conversation. I am here with Ali, our Director of Legislation, Policies, and Alliances. Welcome, Ali.
Hi, thank you for having me, LA. Great to see everybody.
Thank you, folks. So, some of you are familiar with the format. So, before we start on to the questions that we got, Ali, I'm a little curious, and so are our friends over here. What does the director of legislation, policy, and alliances actually do at P4AD?
Well, I get to work with a lot of really fun and smart people. So I'm really lucky that that's a big part of my job. Essentially, I spearhead our work on Capitol Hill, as well as our work with a bunch of our allies and work with federal agencies. But on a daily basis, I get to spend time with our brilliant colleagues, and sometimes I get to interact with patient advocates, and that's definitely a highlight for me.
Thank you so much, Ali. Let's jump right into questions. So, P4AD often talks about centering patients and advocacy. What does that look like, and how do patient stories shape this strategy?
That's a great question. I think a big piece of this work is that before we endorse a piece of legislation, so before we decide, yes, we like this bill and we want to advocate for it in Congress, we take a step back and we make sure that it will actually benefit patients and that it will make prices more affordable in a measurable way. And so that's a big part of it. But I think we also want to make sure we're making the most systemic, sweeping changes possible within the healthcare system and drug pricing. So that's part of it. And then we are always sharing patient stories. So whether we are submitting questions or testimony for a hearing, whether we're organizing a lobby day and we're bringing patient advocates to the Hill to meet with sometimes members and their staff, that's another part of elevating voices and making sure that we're in lockstep with people's lived experience. I myself am also a patient. I've lived with type 1 diabetes for over 30 years. And so while I can't pretend to represent everyone's experiences, for me, my own lifetime has very much shaped why I believe this work is important and how I know that it touches people's lives in a really, really personal way.
No, thank you, Ali. I love that a lot about our work because I feel like it's very easy to look at these statistics, right? And be like, 1 in 3 people can afford their prescription drugs. But like, if you really sit and think about it, like that 1 in 3 people these are our patients. It's Steven, it's Judy, it's Bob. Like, these are real people that we get the privilege to work with every single day. So that's something that I love about P4AD. But that leads quite nicely into our next question because we love our patient advocates here. So, one of our patient advocates, Amelia from Colorado, asked, where do things stand on the Ethic Act, and do you expect it to pass soon?
That's a really good question. So, the Ethic Act, ethic with a TH,
Mhm.
is a bill that we have endorsed, and it is part of the patent reform suite of bills that we have been championing. And the Ethic Act would increase generic competition. It would enable generics and biosimilars to come to market in a quicker fashion. So that means more savings for patients and for taxpayers. We were really excited to see this bill be part of a hearing a few weeks back in House Judiciary in the IP subcommittee, the intellectual property subcommittee. And we submitted testimony to that along with some patient stories. We tuned in really closely. And I think we're pretty optimistic. We were excited to have there be a lot of discussion about how this bill would lower prices. And right now, I think we're trying to do a lot of outreach to Hill offices, see what questions they have, and try to figure out how to get it across the finish line. So I think we're still in the process of figuring out the pathway forward, but there's really good momentum right now, and patients have been a big part of that. I know a lot of our advocates and patients have submitted letters and have shared their experiences with Hill offices, and that's completely indispensable in this fight.
No, thank you, Ali. And if you're with us for the first time and you're not 100% sure what the Ethic Act, because there's a lot of bills moving and a lot of terms to learn, you should check out our video in our Patients for Affordable Drugs Now channel. So, again, that's P4AD Now in YouTube. And we have a few of our star patient advocates be a part of it. They explain what this act is and why P4AD is really pushing for it. So I definitely recommend you guys check it out, and you might just see me there. Thank you so much, Ali. So we had one advocate share with us. Can you explain how Medicare negotiation is working? I keep hearing about it, and I'm curious about how it works.
So, Medicare negotiation is a really exciting win. For the first time ever, we have Medicare negotiating prices directly with manufacturers, and it's for a few drugs every year. So, this year, we have 10 drugs that have negotiated prices that have just taken effect as of January 1st. And so, if you are on Medicare and you have a Part D plan and you are taking drugs through Part D, if you have one of these 10 drugs, you're going to be taking that negotiated price. That's what that's what the price will be for you and your plan. And odds are you'll have your copay, and that will be your percentage. But it's a great, great, great way for patients and taxpayers to be saving money, because we've been seeing historically folks in Medicare paying out the nose despite having Part D coverage. And so this is a way to try to trim that down by having the federal government, which is one of the biggest purchasers, or at least indirectly, through Medicare and Part D plans, really going to the mat and trying to ensure that patients are getting a good bargain. And so we'll see the number of drugs increase slowly over the years. I think we'll have a total of 60 drugs with negotiated prices by 2030, 2031. And so the drugs that are selected are drugs that are taken by a huge population of people. They have to gross over $200 million per year from Medicare. And so these are highly grossing drugs. And so there is a set criteria that determines kind of what the selection is. But yeah, it's a way that we're starting to lower prices. It's a good step in the first direction, a key win, but definitely a lot of work that we need to keep doing.
No, I highly agree, Ali. And again, if you're new here and you're not 100% sure if you're taking a drug that's a part of Medicare negotiation, or you just are curious in general what Medicare negotiation is, we actually have a website that you can visit. It's medicarenegotiation.org. You can learn all about Medicare negotiation. Like I mentioned, it's also available in Spanish. So we highly recommend you guys check it out. So again, thank you so much, Ali. Our next question is, my insulin is still unaffordable and I'm not on Medicare. Why didn't the $35 cap apply to me?
Okay, well, I could talk about this till the cows come home, so I'll try to keep it together, but no promises. So as part of Medicare negotiation, we had a few other protections for patients with Medicare passed as part of the same legislation. And one of the protections that was passed is a $35 per month out-of-pocket cap on insulin. And during that fight, we tried to have that out-of-pocket cap applied to people with commercial insurance through their employer. Unfortunately, that got kicked out of the legislation at the last minute, and so it didn't cross the finish line. And so folks who have employer insurance, like me, and take insulin don't have this federally mandated cap. But I think there is a lot of interest to try to have this cap apply to folks regardless of their insurance type. We're seeing a bill in Congress that has a lot of buzz right now called the Insulin Act that would include a $35 out-of-pocket cap for people with commercial insurance. And I think this is a great way that we can build upon the successes of the Medicare negotiation, but make a lot of these protections something that are available to folks regardless of insurance type, which is really one of the big steps ahead in this work, and one of the ways that we can reach the most people.
Thank you so much, Ali. I agree. Medicare negotiation was such a big win. I think it's a step in the right direction, but I think there's more work to be done. So we have one commonly asked question. How does a patient's story actually move legislation? And does it really make a difference on the Hill?
Yes, yes, yes. Big time yes. So I think patient stories, as you were saying earlier, Ale, make people understand that a lot of the facts and figures they hear connect to a face and connect to a lived reality. And so when you are speaking with a person who is telling you how they can't afford groceries or their rent because of their drug prices, I think that really inspires lawmakers to take action. I think it inspires staff working on this issue to really go through the research extra thoroughly and to try to figure out a solution and try to work with us. And I think it's also a way that we hold lawmakers accountable, because at the end of the day, lawmakers work for us. And so if you are going to a Hill Day and you're meeting with a Senate office, you're a constituent. That's the person who represents you in the US Senate, or one of the two people who represents you in the US Senate. And so it's part of their job to fight for your best interests. And I think for a lot of lawmakers and their teams, stories are a great way to prove a point in terms of why does this fight matter? And it's a way to really combat a lot of what we hear from the pharmaceutical industry. So they might have really deep pockets, but we have people.
No, I fully agree. Ali, actually, I'm going to ask you to elaborate that on a little bit more, because we had a very exciting lobby day happened recently, and we might just have a very exciting video coming soon as well. So you should definitely follow us on social for when that launches soon. But yeah, if you could just elaborate a little bit more on P4AD's lobby day. I mean, it was great seeing you in action. It was great participating in it. I know patients were excited, so I'm interested in your perspective a little more.
So we had 2 lobby days in April where we brought patient advocates to the Hill, had them meet with the teams of senators and representatives, and we talked about bills to make drugs more affordable, and then also some bills we're worried about that would make drugs even more expensive. And in all of those conversations, we really try to lead with the patient stories. And so we have at the top, introductions, but then we have patients talking about, what is my diagnosis? What have I been through? And how would this bill change my life? And so those are a lot of the big picture conversations that we have. But then oftentimes with Hill staff, while we're there with patients, we talk through, okay, what do we need to do in order to get some traction on this piece of legislation? Do we think it's possible that there could be a hearing or a markup? Is there another office that we should talk to? And we really like to have patients be part of that, because patients are the heart of what we do. And, we need not only buy-in from folks, but I think we really need to have patients believing in what we're doing. And we need to be collaborating and having folks, there in the trenches with us.
No, I fully agree. I loved our lobby days because it's always just great seeing patients, having everybody here in DC. It's a great opportunity to see folks face to face. So thank you so much, Ali. And unfortunately, it's coming almost to an end because we're at our final question. So, Ali, what is one drug pricing policy that does not get enough attention but could make a huge difference for patients?
So this is a tricky one because ultimately I think it probably depends on how we're defining not getting enough attention. But I think there are some ideas that we are trying to explore in Congress, and getting some more traction there could make a huge difference. And so one of the things that we're big proponents of is extending some of the protections in Medicare to the commercial market. So people with employer-based insurance. So that would include out-of-pocket caps for drugs like insulin. That would include the inflation rebate that's part of Medicare negotiation. So I guess little asterisk there. Part of Medicare negotiation, when that law was passed, pharmaceutical companies have to pay a rebate if they are increasing drug prices at a rate higher than the rate of inflation annually. That's just within Medicare, but getting that within the inflation market, within the commercial market, would have a really good stick to have some accountability for drug makers when we're thinking about patients who have commercial insurance. And so I think there are a few different ways to try to make these protections and advancements available to people regardless of payer type. So that would be a big thing that I think we're trying to push for. And then thinking about Medicare negotiation, I think I mentioned that the way the law is structured now, we're looking at 60 drugs over the next few years. That's 60 drugs total. And really trying to expand the number of drugs is a huge step that we're also trying to champion. I think that would definitely take a lot of infrastructure, because it's no easy feat to have all of this negotiation work happening. But that is something that we really would love to see take place, just because people who take even more drugs would be able to benefit from this mechanism, and it would save the government money. It would save taxpayers money. And so this is something where, even if you're not on Medicare, even if right now you don't need a drug to live, you pay taxes in this country, it's going to be good for you.
No, Ali, thank you so much. And folks, I know we talked a lot about policy, a lot of bills, Medicare negotiations. So again, if you're with us for the first time and you're not really sure what any of this is, we highly encourage you to follow us on social media. We do all types of explainer videos in English and in Spanish. We have different ways for folks to get involved with us on social media. So hit that follow button, because you're missing out on some great content. But Ali, thank you so much again. And folks, can you believe that is the end of our town hall series? I want to thank everybody, whether you joined us for one episode or for all four of them, or if you submitted a question. We truly appreciate you engaging with us in this incredible series. And if you love this type of content, if you want to see more of it, please let us know in the comments, because we could, be open to a few more town halls in here. But again, make sure to follow us on social media, stay in touch with us. And thank you, Ali, and thank you to all of our amazing guests and hosts that we had throughout this series. And we hope to see you all again so soon.